I'm John Heap. I'm Managing Director of the Institute of Productivity. This presentation is about the productivity challenges facing the world in the 21st century. First, we should make it clear why we need to address this. Why does it matter? Why does the world need to improve productivity? The best illustration I can give is this cake and this bigger cake. In simple terms, only productivity helps us bake a bigger cake. Governments and other agencies often try to share the existing cake out differently by reducing the share given to one stakeholder group and increasing its share given to another. But governments do not and cannot in fact bake a bigger cake. Only industry and commerce can do that, and they can only do it by improving their productivity. If we don't improve productivity, any gains we make are offset by rising inflation. Only improved productivity generates real additional wealth. And here's another interesting fact. If we could improve productivity at a relatively modest rate of 3% per year, then the standard of living doubles after 22 years. This means that one generation lives twice as well as its parents' generation. So productivity improvement is the only fundamental engine of sustainable economic growth. Any country not improving its productivity is failing in its duty to improve the lot of its citizens. Yet the figures show that since the financial crisis of 2008, growth has stalled in most developed economies. Most of the world is in a productivity slump, and this is proving to be both sticky and stubborn. This is really unfortunate, since the world is facing a range of important risks and issues. We have the threat of climate change, increasing air pollution, pollution of our seas and oceans. We have the very basic problems of water shortages, of food security, and we need to develop new sources of affordable energy. All of this is exacerbated by population growth, with the population of the world growing by about 1% per annum. This means we need greater productivity just to stand still. Collectively, we need to grow global productivity and increase global wealth, and if we do that, we have a chance to address these global issues and problems, hopefully making them go away, or at least mitigating their worst effects. Now, this simple or perhaps simplistic approach means we need to share the wealth we create through improved productivity. And that's my first takeaway. Productivity growth increases wealth, but then we need to share it equitably across society. The problem is we have a very poor track record of doing just that, individually and globally. Taking the UK as an example, the Equality Trust carried out some research into the pay gap between those at the top of the largest companies and those at the bottom. Of the companies that responded to the survey, the average pay multiple of the chief executive over the lowest paid worker was 262 to 1. Think about that. The chief executive on average earns 262 times as much as the lowest paid worker. Is that fair? I'm not sure it's fair, it's certainly remarkable. What's perhaps more surprising, and certainly worse, is that the Equality Trust goes on to say that there's little evidence to suggest that this increased pay results in increased company performance. So we're paying our chief executive 260 times as much as the lowest worker with perhaps little effect. So what we need is a value system that recognises the importance of both creating and sharing wealth to meet the needs of our global society. We need a global trading system that encourages productive firms, but at least does not support or protect non-productive firms. So what do we need to do, and who needs to do it? Let's take a look first at the role of governments. Their role, or their collective roles, are to, first of all, support innovation, a key driver of productivity. They support innovation by, for example, ensuring effective protection for intellectual property, by offering incentives to commercial companies to invest in research and development, and by connecting commercial companies to academic research. This connectedness is also important in other ways. Government should promote and encourage connectedness across sectors to help diffuse innovation and share good practice. They should also support sector benchmarking so that firms know who the best performers are in their sector and where they stand in relation to these best performers. Governments must create an effective education and skills infrastructure that's capable of meeting the current needs and the future needs of industry, that promotes lifelong learning and encourages continuing skills development. We need to create a multi-skilled, productive and flexible workforce. Governments must also create a supportive legal and regulatory framework, one that does not add bureaucracy, does not stifle risk-taking and does not restrict worker mobility. Similarly, governments need to provide a financial or macroeconomic regime which encourages longer-term thinking, or at least does not encourage short-term thinking. If governments can get all these factors right, they build an infrastructure and set a tone for high performance and high productivity. It's then the job of organisations to build on this potential. One of the most important tasks they have is to manage the talent pipeline by recruiting, training and developing their staff so they have the right knowledge, skills and attitude to be positive contributors and valuable assets to the organisation, making a difference to productivity and performance. Organisations need to move increasingly from systems thinking to network thinking, creating connectedness again, creating knowledge sharing and social development, using the power of teams and even the crowd, exploiting horizontal, vertical and diagonal communication and information flows. Because innovation is important, they need to create a culture of creativity. They do this by first ensuring that employees are engaged with the organisation, understanding the mission and vision, their own particular role and ways in which their input is required. The organisation then needs to provide opportunities for those engaged employees to explore ideas and possible futures. They should provide training in creative thinking tools and techniques and make sure that employees have the time and space to think and make their contribution. It's no use wanting it but not giving them time and space in which to do it. They should also benchmark themselves against their competitors, their peers. Once people know how their peers are performing and know their own competitive position, they understand the art of the possible, and this drives up performance. So let's summarise what we have said. It is the role of governments to build the infrastructure that creates the potential for higher productivity. This is a very important role. Governments must do this and must not do too much. They should build the infrastructure and then get out of the way, while organisations build on that infrastructure to realise the potential. Now, if we can do all this in a framework where society has created a policy and value framework which ensures that wealth generated is shared and used wisely, we have the opportunity to address the issues we identified earlier. This is too important to be left to others. Each of us must make our contribution. We are building a future for the next and subsequent generations, leaving a legacy from our generation to future generations and to our nations. Let's try and do what we can. If we all work together, we can make this successful. We owe it to those future generations.